Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something, well, let's be honest, everyone's got an opinion on. Marriage.
You already know it.
We asked for your thoughts on whether marriage, like the whole idea of it is outdated, and wow, did you deliver?
Yeah. You know, the inbox is full.
Full, and honestly, some really thoughtful questions about if I do. That lifetime commitment thing still makes sense today.
Which is wild when you think about it, right? Because marriage seems so universal,
Total.
but means something different to everybody.
Absolutely. It's always changing too.
Always.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of whether I do is ancient history, we got to start with the basics, right? What do we even mean by traditional marriage? So many of your questions were about that.
Right, because it's a loaded term, isn't it?
Totally.
It seems like when you say traditional marriage, everyone pictures, well, lifelong commitment, obviously.
Of course.
Those very distinct gender roles, the whole breadwinner husband, homemaker wife.
Yeah, the classics.
Yeah, and that sense of, well, until death do us part.
Right, like it's a package deal.
Right. But you might already know, history tells a bit of a different story, actually.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
It's always crazy to me how different things were just like a couple generations ago.
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, for centuries, marriage wasn't really about romantic love at all,
Really?
Yeah, it was really more about, a practical thing. Economic and social contract, families arranging these things to boost their own status or gain resources, that kind of thing.
So interesting. So was there like a specific moment, a turning point,
Yeah.
when it shifted to be about love?
It's more of a slow burn, honestly.
Okay.
But that Enlightenment period way back when, 18th century, that had a huge impact.
Interesting.
You know how it is? Suddenly it's all about individual happiness, marrying for love,
Right.
certainly in Western cultures. But here's a funny thought. You can see those old school practicalities, right? Like in
Yeah.
prenuptial agreements today, which are more and more common.
Oh, that's such an interesting connection. We think of those as like a modern thing.
Right.
But it's still about protecting yourself.
Exactly. Romance may be on top, but still got to be practical, right?
Exactly. Okay, so while some people are all about that prenup life, we also got a lot of questions about those declining marriage rates, which are a real thing.
Oh, definitely. Statistically, way less common than it used to be.
Okay, so for example, in the U.S., I was looking this up, Pew Research Center, they found in 2021 only about half of adults were married,
Wow.
compared to, get this, over 70% back in 1960.
That is a huge drop.
Huge.
Yeah.
So is that it? Are people just over the whole marriage thing?
It's not quite that simple, is it?
Yeah, I figured.
A lot going on. Economically, people are delaying it, right? Feeling financially unstable.
For sure. Makes sense.
And we can't ignore how gender roles have changed so much.
Absolutely.
Women are killing it, education, careers. That old model of hubby as the sole provider, not exactly appealing to everyone.
Yeah, it feels a little outdated.
A little. You've probably noticed this too, but people are waiting way longer to get married, if they even do.
Yeah, for sure. Or, like you said, choosing different paths altogether, right?
Right.
Living together, but not getting married.
Exactly. Cohabitation, it's super common now. It's like a way to share a life, but without all that legal stuff.
Right.
And speaking of legal stuff, we got to acknowledge how the very definition of marriage is changing, same-sex marriage being legal in so many places now.
Right. Such a huge shift.
Huge. It really changes how we think about what marriage can be.
Absolutely. So we've talked about how things are changing, but we also heard from a lot of you who see the value in that traditional model. So what's the appeal? Why is it still considered relevant?
It's a great question, and you're right. Plenty of people still find it appealing. Legally speaking, tons of benefits, right?
Yeah.
Taxes, inheritance, even who makes medical decisions if something happens.
It's true. There are a lot of practical advantages.
Totally. Plus, for some, there's that sense of security,
Wow.
Society's stamp of approval.
It's official.
Exactly. Like we're a team through thick and thin can be
Yeah.
really powerful.
But isn't that where some of the criticism of traditional marriage comes in? This idea that it's always about forever, and that might not actually match up with how relationships really work.
That's the big one, right? Critics say clinging too tightly to tradition, especially those rigid gender roles, that can really backfire.
How so?
Well, imagine that pressure to fit these predefined boxes, husband or wife, limiting, don't you think?
Totally.
And honestly, for some people, it can be kind of damaging.
Right, especially these days when everyone's all about being yourself, expressing your individuality.
Totally. And there's tons of research now showing that when people feel forced into those roles, resentment builds up.
Makes sense.
Anxiety, feeling disconnected from what you actually want, it's a recipe for trouble.
And honestly, while Till Death Do Us Part sounds super romantic, divorce rates paint a slightly different picture, don't they?
Exactly. And those rates, while they've actually dropped a bit recently, they're not nothing, are they?
Not at all.
And here's the thing. There's still this pressure to have that perfect marriage, which often looks a lot like the traditional model. So when things don't work out, people feel ashamed,
That's so tough.
even if divorce is the healthiest choice for them.
So it sounds like what we're learning is there's no one right answer, no magic formula for every relationship.
100%. For this deep dive, we actually talked to several different couples, and their stories show this so well.
Oh, I love that. Tell me everything.
So we've got Sarah and Ben, right? 20 years married, totally happy, and that traditional structure, it works for them. They love the defined roles, that sense of stability.
So it's not inherently bad. It's about what works for each couple.
Exactly. Then on the flip side, we've got Alex and Chloe. They're like, marriage, not for us. But they're building an amazing life together, just defining their commitment on their own terms.
That's great. It's about having options,
Right. And honestly, the common thread, love, respect, open communication.
The classics.
Right. And being willing to adapt together as life changes.
Those are good takeaways for any relationship, no matter what.
Totally. So to bring it back to that original question, is I do a relic of the past. We've looked at the history, the good, the bad. Honestly, it's deeply personal.
It really is.
The key is figuring out what commitment, partnership, that idea of forever, what does it all mean to you? And then find the path that fits your values.
I love that.
Yeah.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Okay, listeners, here's something to think about. If you were redesigning marriage for today's world, what would it look like? Keep what works, change what doesn't. The floor is yours. Let us know. And until next time, stay curious, everyone. Bye.
Bye.